Hi everyone, my name is Flora and today I want to kick off a series of videos all about stress and stress management. So I think as small organisation CEOs, we're especially prone to falling into the trap of becoming overwhelmed and stressed out and burning out because we pour so much of ourselves into our organisations. And I covered a little bit of this in my previous video about how you establish boundaries and your work-life balance. But in this video and future videos, I want to really delve into this topic a bit more and explore how you identify the symptoms of stress, how you identify and evaluate the things that cause you stress or your stressors, how you can then manage this by changing your perceptions of the stressors, reducing it and eliminating the stressors, and finally building your resilience and practicing self-care. So if you'd like to join me for this journey, then please do hit the subscribe button down below and you'll be notified when I next upload a video in this series. But the reason I really wanted to make this series about stress and stress management is because I think we've fallen into a narrative trap as a society where we equate an individual's achievement and success with their level of busyness and their level of stress. And this is an incredibly destructive cycle to get into because stress, quite simply, it's a poison. It's like smoking. You know, a few years ago, if you wanted to be seen as influential or cool or do something as a status symbol, you smoked. But then we realized, medical professionals and scientists doing research into it realized the mental and physical damage that smoking does. And consequently, it's been banned from workplaces and public areas. And anyone who is smoking is actively being supported to try and stop and to kick that very destructive addiction. Because smoking kills, and quite simply, stress does too. Stress is incredibly damaging to both our physical and mental health, and it should not be celebrated or allowed to run rampant in our organisations. Then we, as small organisation CEOs, need to protect both ourselves and our team members from its damaging impact. And I personally feel very strongly about this, and I'm stressing this so much is because I've personally dealt with the consequences of ignoring stress and trying to power through. So about 5 years ago, I lost about 25 to 50% of my hair all over my head from stress-related alopecia, and it has taken a long time for it to grow back and grow out. I also developed stress-related tinnitus, so if I get very stressed, I get a very loud ringing in my ears and I can't hear properly. And then a few years ago, I was going through a particularly stressful period and I ignored it and thought, no, it's fine, I can handle this. And I ended up collapsing at work from stomach pain brought on by stress to spend the night at A&E. So please believe me when I tell you that stress is destructive. There is so much research out there from people who are much more medically inclined than me that go into all of the different side effects and consequences of living very stressed out. So please don't brush this to the side. It is a very important thing, and it's really important that we manage it. So with that said, what can we do about stress? So again, what I'm going to talk about now has been based on both personal experience from training I've undergone, both as a manager and in trying to become an organizational coach, which is what I'm doing at the moment, and also medical research and things that I've read around this subject. So hopefully that saves you a little bit of time to not have to read it yourself. But if you did want to delve into it further, then I'll pop some links down below of what I think are reliable sources on the topic. So coming back to that question, what can we do about stress? So the first step is to recognize when you're experiencing stress. So stress can be quite sneaky. It can build up quietly and over a long period it's cumulative. And so you can feel like you're doing absolutely fine, and then you can suddenly be hit by one of the more serious consequences like I was if you don't pay attention to it and you're not mindful of it building up. So the earlier you can recognize that you're feeling stressed, the earlier you can implement some stress management techniques and reduce your overall levels so it doesn't ever build up to that truly destructive level. And the way to do this is to really identify what your red flags are that signal to you that stress is starting to creep in. So these red flags tend to come in about 4 varieties. So that's your physical, emotional, mental, and behavioral. And I'll list out a few common symptoms now. And what I'd suggest is if you pause the video and grab a piece of paper and a pen, or get a Word document open, and just note down anything that feels familiar to you. You'll probably hear a bunch and think, no, that's relevant. And then you'll kill that one and smile to yourself and think, okay, maybe there's something to this. So trust me and listen through. So let's get into it. Some of the physical symptoms of stress can be more frequent headaches, fatigue, constant minor illness like having a runny nose all the time, stomach pain, tinnitus, dizziness, internal shaking and weakness. These can all be a sign that it's starting to creep in. Emotional symptoms can be having heightened anxiety, rumination, so that's when your mind gets stuck on certain thoughts and it just goes in a cycle and a cycle and a cycle, and you can't get away from it even if you try and think about something else. Feeling discouraged, helpless, having more emotional outbursts, having either a reduced sense of humor or sometimes even having a heightened sense of humor where you find everything funny because you've so overstimulated by stress. Some of the mental symptoms are having difficulty concentrating, having a reduced ability to make decisions, reduced ability for time management and meeting deadlines, reduced creativity, increased self-criticism, pessimism, boredom. And finally, behavioral, you might notice that you're increasing your consumption of alcohol, drugs, tobacco, caffeine, sugar. You might have altered sleeping patterns, so you might be barely sleeping, or you might find that you're sleeping all the time and you're struggling to really wake up. You might be socializing less, you might be exercising less, and you might be doing more self-soothing activities such as biting your nails or scratching at your skin or pulling at hair. So these are all very common symptoms. It doesn't mean that these are the only ones, but hopefully that's helped you identify some of your red flags or triggered your thinking and realize what might be red flags for you. The best way to really figure out what your red flags are is to be a bit mindful when you have your next feeling of stress. So when you're next feeling overwhelmed and have that stress building up, just take a breath and check in with yourself on your physical, emotional, mental, and behavioral states to see what's happening inside. Are you noticing that you're, reaching for your coffee mug? Are you noticing that your heart's pounding? You're having shallow breaths? Just check in without judgment what's happening and make a note. And then the next time you're feeling stressed, and a couple of times, just check in with yourself and build up that picture of what are those frequent things that are happening when that stress is kicking in. And the benefit of having these red flags is that you start to notice earlier and earlier when you're feeling stressed. So for example, if you know you bite your nails when you're stressed, then it can be a trigger that every time you bring up that nail to your mouth, it can remind you of, okay, what's going on here? Is this just a force of habit because I always bite my nails, or is there something else going on? What's going on at work? How am I feeling about it? How am I feeling about life? And that really then helps you with the next stage, which is going to be the next video, on identify what it is that's causing you stress. Because sometimes we have that image of, X always gets me stressed out. But when we really drill down to it, we realize that whatever X is just, the straw that broke the camel's back. And there's a lot of other things that build up to that point that are actually the things that are contributing to your stress. And they're the things that you need to focus on managing, not necessarily that just one final thing that really tipped you over. So I'll be exploring that in the next video. Again, as I mentioned before, if you want to be notified when that comes out, then please do hit the subscribe button and you'll get a little notification. But in any case, I hope you found this first video useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.